We have just gone to look at the HUD changes coming to Black Ops 6 Zombies, as well as the changes to the Liberty Falls gameplay atmosphere. So as you know, in response to the major backlash to Liberty Falls, Treyarch have been trying to listen to adjust the map, and I'll leave a link to the full blog post in this video's description. They also go over all of the augments and gobblegums coming. In this video, I'm just going to be focusing on the HUD as well as the maps themselves, and I'll do a separate video on the gobblegums and augments. But let's go over the Liberty Falls update, so you can see what the map now looks like on screen. And they have said that they have modified the visual tone of the map along with gorier set dressing and new environmental audio to more intensely reflect the chaos of the recent dimensional breach here. Now, as you can see, it looks a lot gloomier and darker and cloudier in the sky than the original Liberty Falls gameplay that we have received. However, I'm not going to lie, I don't like it being this much darker. I think they've actually, in some ways, made the map look worse. Overall, I think the map looks a lot better. The environment definitely looks a lot better than it did before. You can see there's a lot more detail and the textures look better and some of the lighting looks better as well. However, I think they've made the map look too musty and they've somehow made it seem like it has even less contrast than before. So I do think the map looks better, but it still doesn't look great by any means. And yeah, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. I think that they shouldn't have made the map go so dark. I don't think the main problem of Liberty Falls was the brightness, because we've had beautiful maps like Shangri-La that have a gloomy atmosphere. They're still pretty bright, but they're absolutely beautiful. And what they've tried to do in response to criticism here, I don't think it has fixed the problems of the map. They've actually, in some ways, made it worse. Like I say, I do think it is just a bit too dark and it needs to have increased saturation and increased contrast for sure. Now, there is also this dark ether anomaly that you can see, and apparently during the Easter egg, there's going to be different environmental changes. So I'm guessing this big anomaly by Sam, I assume, is probably what actually happens during the main quest that was of course turned off at the COD Next event, and there's going to be an Easter egg song from Kevin Sherwood to experience on the map. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the new Liberty Falls? Like I say, I still think it doesn't look great. The general environment looks better. However, I think they should have still gone for a bright looking map. They could have still had some clouds and gloomy atmosphere, but maybe not as grey as this, because looking at these images, the map is still just really grey and brown, and they need to have more colors going on, and that's completely absent here. And yeah, I think before, with it being sunny, it had not great contrast and not great saturation as well, not many great colors, but that is all still present here. They've updated the textures and stuff a bit, but I think the darkness actually worsens the map and makes it look more grey and washed out even. But let's go over the HUD changes. Now, I'm more happy with the HUD changes, which you can see on screen. The HUD definitely looks better. There's many different presets you can select, so this positions everything in a similar way to Black Ops 3, so you don't have the minimap and stuff like that. And these are all of the changes that they have made. Character portraits have been added to the lower left corner by default. There's a general alignment of and color adjustments made across the entire HUD. Perk icons now positioned closer together. Zombie specific widgets added for certain in-game actions. In-game gobblegum reward animation added. So as you know, in the Liberty Falls gameplay, the gobblegum animation was really not great. Now, I believe they haven't actually shown us what the new gobblegum animation looks like, but hopefully it looks cool like it did in Black Ops 3. There's visibility sliders added to allow players to fine-tune or completely disable additional HUD elements, including score feed, medals and notifications, minimap opacity, weapon and equipment information, and more. So yeah, you can remove all of that stuff if you want. I do believe you can remove everything, although it's a bit unclear if you actually can. I hope you can. It'll definitely make getting B-roll and stuff like that for story videos a lot better for me personally, but I digress. Yeah, the HUD does look better. It does look more zombified. I particularly like the icon in the bottom left of the screen, but it still looks too multiplayer-ified, and it's still not too great, but I like that they have touched it up a bit. It's definitely better than nothing, of course, and I hope that by Treyarch's next Zombies game, if they're not able to further keep updating this HUD, that they can make a much more zombified HUD in the future. They have also updated the Zombies menu screen, as you know from the Liberty Falls reveal. Lots of people were complaining about that, but I said in my videos this is probably unfinished, and that's correct. So it looks a lot better now, and the previews they've shown of the menus of the gobblegums, as well as the perks and stuff like that, and all of the different equipment, the menus look great. The menus look really good, way better than they did at the COD Next event, and they all look very zombified. They all seem like they have an atmosphere and personality and aura to them, even the zombies operator screens as well. I really like the menus here. Now, they have also provided map overviews of Terminus as well as Liberty Falls, showing the key points of interest. So you can see what Terminus looks like on screen, and the difference to Liberty Falls is absolutely insane. Look at the saturation, look at the colors. It looks like an almost entirely different team has designed design the atmospheres of these maps, and maybe that was even the case, to be honest. A different sector of Treyarch. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that was actually the case, and I wish Liberty Falls looked as good as this as well, because Terminus looks so good, and hopefully all of the DLC is of this same caliber. So Terminus actually features mining tunnels used in World War II, resupply depot, which the structures were used to be built on as part of this shuttered CIA black site, and apparently there's a wealth of discoveries to uncover on the map, given the more recent evidence of heinous biological experimentations by the nefarious Project Janus group. The Terminus crew need to stay on their toes. And how good does Terminus look? I know I keep saying it, but it just looks so phenomenal, and it's just crazy that we have such a stark contrast between the maps, and with the new HUD changes as well, it's going to improve both Liberty Falls and Terminus's atmosphere as well, and being able to turn everything off. So yeah, I really like this, and I like that the island has great history. Now there's also the prison, the holding cells where the Requiem crew were staying in for the last half a decade. The paint is peeling, the ducts are rusting, and there's an odd smell coming from one of the air vents. I'm not sure what that is. Is there someone dead inside of the air vents, and we're gonna find a zombie in there or something like that? Adjacent is the guard station, where your handlers, Peck and Strauss, have barricaded themselves, as well as a lower interrogation room with the remnants of a torture session still visible. Here we see the security overlook and control center. This really reminds me of Firebase C, the control room there. A cranked concrete overlook lies below the guard tower, which leads to a 2-level control center with monitor banks and a well-stocked armory. Further down the embankment the prison is built on, the remains of a Project Janus communication structure seem to have been well maintained until the recent incursion. We then have the living quarters, storage and hall mass. The large storage area leads down an unloading ramp to the wreck yard, and on either side is an older structure built in 1942 when the US Navy established a resupply base on the island. Nearby is an engineering room stocked with electronics and tables to tinker on. Then we have Sea Tower. Explore the Dark Ether Redactor DAR Sea Tower, a gun emplacement atop an octangle tower with attached metal ramps and gantries and an ascender all the way down to the gigantic concrete footings. We then have gun battery platform, a massive World War II vintage gun emplacement rests atop a thick concrete platform seemingly modified by Project Janus in recent years as part of an unusual experiment. So of course this is now a Dark Ether cannon, but what exactly and why exactly did they have this made? Of course we know there's the Kraken on the map, so I have to assume this Kraken has been in the ocean this entire time and they've had to be defending the island against it. But of course at the end of Cold War the outbreaks were supposedly closed, and yet seemingly there were probably zombies in between that time period for them to defend the island, so much so, unless they just expected an outbreak to happen later. We then have the sea caves and mining tunnels. Below the outer areas of the island prison are a pair of subterranean tunnels, one naturally occurring and the other man-made, dug out towards the end of the 19th century when the island's long mined out coal reserves were being greedily exploited. So I cannot wait to explore this map. There's so many secrets to discover, especially because it has such a rich history tied to World War II. There's probably going to be so many different things and treasure troves to uncover as you're exploring the map, and because it's apparently one of the largest maps you can explore and you can go out on the boat into the ocean and explore these other islands, there's going to be so many Easter eggs there. You're probably not going to venture out into these areas too often apart from traversing between, and this is probably where there's going to be lots of Easter eggs crammed. Now we also then have the Biolabs, of course. An impressive feat of engineering awaits on the island. A large sea cave has been completely hollowed out and a large-scale secret research facility has been constructed within the cavern walls. Multi-level gantry walkways and stairs are clamped to the outer walls, and what appears to be an experimentation chamber lies within. So this is where Richtofen and Janus have been doing all of these weird experiments, creating zombies, cloning stuff. I'm not sure exactly what is going on. We then have the inclined lift and maglev elevator. Through the biolab is set within a huge cavern. It has multiple pathways outwards thanks to an inclined lift that periodically trundles up to the top level behind the living quarters. Further around the biolab gantries and is an operational Project Janus constructed maglev elevator. We then have the shipwreck. Despite the radar buoys in close proximity, the remains of a shipping tanker indicate just how treacherous the waters around Terminus Island are. Slowly rusting from the stern to prow, the salt waters have eaten away at the hull, though the main deck is still seemingly accessible. So yeah, I wonder if there's going to be some Easter eggs to do with these buoys, and of course Wonderfizz is actually going to be on this boat, so you'll need to go there, but it's going to be treacherous going out into the waters. It's recommended to go in the boat instead of swimming because of course the Kraken can get you. You then have the outer islands. To the northwest is a temple island with its odd pillar-like carvings. Due east is Castle Rock Island, named after the natural stone edifice jutting from the tidal sands that appears to be an old fortification. location. The largest of 3 outcrops is Crab Island, where Project Janice disposal crews would discard the remains of their science team's unwholesome experiments. The seas around Terminus Island are also to something more foreboding, a terror in the water, writhing up from an eradicated cloud and violently attacking those that remain outside the confines of the prison for too long. So much interesting lore and story set up for the atmosphere of the map there. But now moving over to Liberty Falls, where we can get a much better look as well of the atmosphere that I talked about before. So of course it's appearing concurrently as Terminus Island is taking place, and yeah, these 2 outbreaks happen at the same time. And I just want to say, I do think that because the version of Liberty Falls was so unfinished before, that Trek definitely should have specified at the event that this is an unfinished build, so that to just calm down, because I think a lot of people jumped the guns watching the initial Liberty Falls reveal. Now looking at these images, Liberty Falls does look a lot better. Like I say, I'm not saying Liberty Falls doesn't look better or Trek have made it look worse. I just think some elements look worse. I think that they have increased the tone and detail a lot, so it is moodier. However, it does look a bit too bland still, whilst it is still better. But yeah, I know that this town, of course, is supposed to just be happening. You know, it's a quaint little town. It's occurring right as an outbreak is happening, right after the evacuation. So I understand it's not going to be as crazy as a map like Revelations or Origins or something like that has crazy robots or giant apothecons. It's not going to be, you know, so wild, because this is a much more scaled, more relatable map, or at least that's what it's supposed to be. But I still think they could have, you know, a good saturation or something like that going on, or some elements that introduce more colors onto the map. Now, of course, the dark ether is going to be seeping out through the Easter egg, and we saw a little glimpse of that, but I wonder if that actually enthralls more of the map as you progress in the Easter egg, and maybe that's some way that the map might become like all purple or something like that. Now, anyways, let's go over the points of interest. So we have Pump and Pay. You begin your battles against the swarms of roaring townspeople from a gas station rooftop vantage point. This soon becomes a disadvantage when you realize how nimble zombies are at reaching you. If you are a glutton for punishment, switch on the Rampage Inducer here to speed up the action. Otherwise, descend to the ground and bear witness to the true horrors that have befallen this cursed hamlet. We then have Motor Lodge. The ironically named Rest Easy Motor Lodge is one of the first structures you'll investigate after scrambling down from the gas station. Partly ablaze with the word help daubed across the roof, this is seemingly an epicenter of zombie activity, with shambling horrors crashing out of rooms on the ground and upper floors. So going through this, of course, we're more familiar with Liberty Falls since we've had a lot more gameplay, and it's a much smaller map, of course, so we've already seen all of these areas, of course, from the early gameplay. However, we're getting a better look at them now that they've also had updated graphics. We then have Ollie's comic book store. In the southern corner of town is the local comic shop run by Ollie. Best not think about what happened to him. The shop caters to the true collector, with both the latest and back issues of charged up heavy service and odd stories on sale at reasonable prices. But most folks come here for the life-size statue of Ether Etler to pose with, star of the comic line of the same name. That might be, you know, some sort of government cover-up for Samantha Maxis, turning her into a fictional story, as well as they're able to keep a secret drone of her to protect the town if an outbreak were to ever occur, like is happening here. We then have Fuller's Liberty Lanes, an old-fashioned bowling alley comprised of a snack bar and small arcade, has been overrun with the undead. The lanes themselves seem to be just wide enough to herd larger zombie hordes without getting trapped and ripped apart, but looks can be deceiving. So I wonder what that means. Even though it's so open, there's going to be something that will stop you, I guess, from being able to train here. I don't know if it's just going to be specific vantage points or specific points where the zombies actually break out from that can actually take you out, or what that's referring to, or if there's special zombies that spawn in here. I'm not sure. I didn't notice anything in particular from the early gameplay. We then have Savings and a Loan. The Bank of Liberty Falls is a grand stone edifice and seems to have been well barricaded before the baying hordes overran the place. That's not to say this is a safe place to visit, but it's centrally located with fine marbled floors only somewhat tarnished by the wreckage, strewn debris, and unpleasant fluids. We have the Holy Falls Church. So yeah, this is of course based on Harper's Ferry and is basically the central point of the map, considering this is where you pack a punch and enter the dark ether. This neo-Gothic house of worship becomes more terrifying the further inside you investigate it. Placed upon a plateau at the highest point in town, a dimensional anomaly seems to have fully enveloped the interior. And of course you can just go into it. They've made Pack-a-Punch, and this map in general is just a jump in and play experience, so you don't have to do any steps to get Pack-a-Punch. You just go in this church after opening all of of the barriers. We then have the Alamo. Judging by the sandbags, razor wire, and other defenses, the bank's rooftop is where the last surviving members of the Project Janice response teams have made their last stand. You'll find everything you need here. So we know, of course, in the Easter egg, we're going to be trying to locate 3 scientists that Blanchard is tasking us to do, whilst he is actually camping out in Richtofen's mansion on the Hilltop Manor above the town itself. So maybe this is going to be where we find some of the other people hanging out. So I find it interesting they say this is where the Project Janice response teams made their last stand, because the operators we play as are supposed to be that Janice response team, but apparently there's some other redacted faction. We don't know who they actually are yet. So yeah, potentially all of those Janice response teams killed before this other team, whoever sent them here, got there, and that's going to be an interesting implication to discover in the main quest for the map. Finding the remnants of these bodies, maybe some of them are still alive and they're camping out in this, and we have to try and evacuate them or escort them in the quest, and I assume there's other civilians on the town we will discover along the way, among the scientists as well, that we're going to be trying to find. So yeah, that's going to be really interesting. But that's been the map overview of Liberty Falls as well as Terminus. Like I say, let me know what you think of the Liberty Falls changes in the comment section down below. As always, it definitely looks a lot better. Don't get me wrong, however, it's still not the best atmosphere in the world, like I say, and the same goes with the HUD. I personally like the HUD changes more though, but this is the step in the right direction, and maybe Trek can even continually update Liberty Falls and the HUD in the post-launch. I don't think so though, especially regarding Liberty Falls' atmosphere, but maybe they can tweak the HUD post-launch. I doubt they're going to change the atmosphere though, so that's potentially something that they can take on board if people still have criticism, or they can just take this feedback on board for their next game. I definitely think probably next game they're going to definitely improve the HUD, because it's been such a big criticism this year. You know, people didn't like it in the last couple Zombies games, but I think it's just reached a breaking point here where the complaints have become so massive now that they've not been able to ignore them, and they've only been able to make slight tweaks to the HUD in time for launch, and hopefully, like I say, by the time that the next Zombies game swings around, they can actually do a full-on overhaul with a brand new, unique Zombies HUD that looks awesome and crisp. But without further ado, that's everything I wanted to say in this video. Like I say, I'll have the other video going over all of the gobblegums, augments, etc. that are also revealed in this blog. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.